Hello, and welcome back to Let's Play Tyrion Cuthbert, Attorney of the Arcane. Last episode, we fumbled around a bit before finally finishing up with Miriam Freya and Jen Hughes' testimonies. On this episode, we're going to bring the Headmaster to the stand and hopefully get to the bottom of this case. If so, we have no choice but to take a brief recess until he can be brought here. There's no need. He's been in the gallery this whole time. Yup. Fortunately for you, I'm already in the gallery. The Headmaster stood up from the gallery seats behind you and slowly walked onto the witness stand. Has he been here the entire time? Oh, probably. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Cuthbert. But do you think I am the one who committed this crime? I'm sorry, Redmond, but no matter how I look at it, everything I've found points to you. No, there's no need to apologize. In fact, I should commend you for on the lengths that you're willing to go to defend poor dear Wallace. The court appreciates your understanding, Mr. Redmond. Now then, to clear the air, I suppose I should give my testimony on what happened that day. That day I had a meeting scheduled with the professor at noon. She showed up at the expected time and we discussed various administrative matters. Our meeting went on for an hour, after which she left to prepare for her next class. Despite our many disagreements, we still knew how to be civil with one another. After all, I had no reason to bear a personal grudge against her. I have evidence that says you do. I just can't see it. He seems like such a nice person. Does he? Is he really the person we're looking for? He has to be. No one else could have orchestrated this whole plot. You just need to find out how and why. And most importantly, where. Jokes aside. Yeah, I think I've got evidence to the contrary, bud. And that evidence is in the plan. Objection! Redmond, did you really hold no animosity toward Professor Bellwether? Of course not. I did have strong opinions about her methods of teaching, but I always remained professional. We both did. Frankly, I find that hard to believe. And in fact, I think you may have had a very good reason to murder the professor, considering that she was going to take your job. What? So you knew about that. I'm sorry, but I don't follow. Looks like we're spelling it out for her. Just how was the professor going to take the headmaster's job? Oh boy, we get to spell it out. Yay. Oh, damn. No logic thing, like Like in Ace Attorney, like in the recent Ace Attorneys, I mean. Unfortunate. But oh well. According to Miriam Frege, Catherine Bellwether was currying favor with the noble families. In fact, there was a plan to oust Mr. Redmond and appoint Bellwether as the new headmaster of the academy. Well, what? But in any case, I doubt that the headmaster had any idea of this until now. I'd like to remind the court of the witness's reaction just now. He said, "So you knew about that." His reaction was one of surprise. But he wasn't surprised by this information. He was surprised that I knew this information. That's... Please, dear Arya. I may be a frail old man, but I'm capable of defending myself. If you have an explanation, Mr. Redmond, then by all means, I'd love to hear it. Gladly. Witness testimony. It is true that I knew about the Frege's plot beforehand, but I had only just learned about it. On the day of the murder, the professor told me about her plan. She was going to replace me as headmaster, and replace the staff with her arcane constructs. Now, you might say that this would have given me the perfect motive to commit murder. However, the supposed murder weapon was stolen from Miss Frege. This happened weeks before the murder, and my discovery of the professor's treachery. I had no knowledge of their plan before she told me, and therefore I wouldn't have known to steal Miss Frege's weapon in an attempt to frame her. Are you satisfied now, Mr. Cuthbert? Are you feeling it now, Mr. Krabs? There is no way that the headmaster could have come up with this plan. If he really did do this, that means he stole the rapier too, right? Most likely. His alibi makes sense. He couldn't have planned this whole thing unless he knew about Bellwether's plans. That would mean he knew about this weeks ago. But how did he even find out? The best way to tell a convincing lie is to leave a lot of truths and only change one detail. Maybe Bellwether did tell him everything, but she actually told him weeks ago. The question is, how do you prove that? Mr. Cuthbert, you may begin your cross-examination. Well, as always, let's start with Preston. So, you only learned about it recently. Doesn't that seem a bit too convenient for you? It may appear that way, yes, but... And then launches into his second testimony. Bit. That must have infuriated you. Your colleague betraying you and attempting to steal your job. I'm only human. Of course I was taken aback. I've been the headmaster of the Imperial Academy for decades. To think that the professor and the board would go behind my back like that. With the professor dead, you won't have to worry about losing your job. At least not for a while. I suppose you're correct, but there are others who benefit too. The faculty staff is now aware of the Freya's plot. With her plot delayed, they won't need to worry about abruptly losing their jobs either. But what happens if you prove that Redmond is the killer? He'll lose his job and House Freya will appoint someone else. No, you can't think about that right now. If you don't prove Redmond's guilt, the court will convict Wallace. As headmaster, you'd probably have the tools to get into her room. Yes, I will admit that. The Academy has a master key that can be used to enter each of the students' dorms. Why? What is the purpose of having that? Just why? And yes, as headmaster, I would have access to that key. Like, I can think maybe for cleaning the rooms, but you'd only do that when students aren't present, right? Then you had the perfect way to get into her room and steal the rapier, undetected. I suppose I did. However, there's one flaw with your logic. It was my understanding that the Freyas wanted to keep this a secret until the end. Why would Bellwether of all people tell you about her betrayal? I imagined she wanted to taunt me with that information. We've long had our arguments, and looking back, she may have resented me for that. And at that point, there wasn't anything I could do to stop her. Really, and I thought you and the professor were on good terms. We get to be sassy. Yay. I'd thought so too, but I suppose it was all a facade. She was just biding her time until she could take my position as headmaster. He had to have known about Bellwether's betrayal weeks ago. Right, the question is, how do we prove it? Do we have something to prove he knew about it the day before the murder? You know what? I want to check our evidence. So, plagiarism, fraud. Let me see here. I think the evidence of academic dishonesty might be what proves he knew about it beforehand. The construct in the locker room? No. Maybe his actions?
Objection! Objection!
What do?
Objection!
No. God damn. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Objection!
This happened weeks ago.
Objection!
Okay, I'm at a loss. So... what do I do? Unfortunately, I can't check how long the, Oh, I found what I need to present.
Objection!
Okay, I need to present the testimony. Here.
Objection!
No? But... Right. Revealed this plan during a meeting a few weeks ago.
Objection!
Okay, there we go. Had to present it in that statement. I hate when it does it like this, because like there were several points where it made sense to present that. Yeah, oh well. Redmond, you keep saying that you didn't know about Bellwether's plan before yesterday. Do you still plan on standing behind that claim? Of course I am, because it's the truth. I'm sorry, Mr. Redmond, but you really should close your doors during your meetings. What? Did someone else, or did someone see? It is true that Bellwether revealed her plan to you during one of your meetings. In fact, Jan Hughes happened to overhear that same meeting. but he only overheard the part where the staff would be replaced. And that's the strangest part, Redmond. According to Mr. Hughes, this meeting occurred weeks ago. You can't accuse the headmaster of perjury based on a rumor. I can, and I did. Everything you've just said is based on second-hand information. Mr. Hughes distinctly overheard that the staff would be replaced with arcane constructs. This is too specific and too accurate to assume that he misheard a different conversation. The professor probably only revealed her plan for the arcane constructs. That still doesn't prove that he knew about her treachery beforehand. Professor Bellwether had no authority over the cleaning staff's employment. It wouldn't make sense for her to just reveal the plan for the arcane constructs. Tyrion's got a point. That would only make sense if he knew that Bellwether would be taking his job. So tell me one thing, Redmond. Why did you lie about this? Is it because you saw a need to protect yourself from accusations? Redmond, I asked you a question. Did you murder Catherine Bellwether? What a fine mess this is. I'm not done. Not yet. Headmaster. So, you truly plan on pushing this, are you? Well, your thesis, it sounded promising, Mr. Cuthbert. But I believe your arguments could use a little work. You think I killed Catherine Bellwether? Me? I'm an elderly man in his late 80s. I was alone and had nothing to overpower Bellwether with. I can barely walk, much less wield a rapier. No, that's not right. He's technically correct. He couldn't overpower Bellwether himself. But was he really by himself? Okay, I had to present the other arcane construct. Screw you too, damn screw you too. But you and Bellwether weren't the only people in that room, were you? Are we really referring to the arcane constructs which are not remotely sapient as people? I'm confused. You needed the arcane constructs to carry Bellwether's body. That means that the construct would have already been in your office. And with your privileges, you could have easily programmed the construct to stab Bellwether for you. Even so, think about what would have transpired afterward. Recall Miss Steelwind's timeline of Bellwether's witnesses. With your theory, the construct would have spent more than an hour in the library. Having it there would have risked my so-called ruse from being discovered. Luckily, Lady Frege can't tell night from day. I wouldn't have the construct linger around the library. Why is he scared? Redmond, What you're saying doesn't match what you're thinking. What kind of weak assertion is that? How could you possibly know what I'm thinking? Oh, The timing deduced from Miss Frega's testimony is predicated on one thing. She saw Miss Bellwether exit your office after your meeting. However, if we assume that you're lying about when this meeting happened, your entire argument falls apart. Miss Frege would have encountered Bellwether after her death at 2:01 p.m. Miss Frege wouldn't have made a mistake like that. Miss Frege thought it was morning when she saw Bellwether. She can't reliably tell the time. Then what about where the rapier was placed? If I really was the murderer, then that would mean I planted the weapon in young Wallace's locker. Several of the students had lockers there that I had access to. I wouldn't have placed incriminating evidence in that locker. Wallace is one of my prized students. If I had to frame anyone, he would be the last person I chose. That's true. He placed... Something must have confused him about whose locker he placed the rapier in. Oh, right. You're right, Mr. Redmond. You wouldn't try to frame Wallace, but you would try to frame Miriam Frege. It would have been the perfect act of revenge, wouldn't it? You murder your treacherous co-worker and frame the daughter of the family that helped her. But something went wrong, didn't it, Redmond? The labels on Wallace's locker and Miriam's locker were switched. Anyone who saw that would have easily mixed them up. I am the headmaster of the Imperial Academy. I have records of all the students' lockers and where they're located. There's no reason I would make a mistake like that. If I truly planned this, I would have known where Wallace's locker was. A simple change in labels wouldn't have led me to make a careless mistake like that. You know, but an arcane construct, maybe. But it wasn't you, was it? Your arcane construct was the one who planted the rapier in the locker. I bet you commanded it to place this rapier in the locker of Miriam Frege. But it saw the ID on Wallace's locker and assumed that it was Miriam's. This is... Redmond begins desperately stammering, looking for something to say. Miss Steelwind, say something. What? Mr. Cuthbert, your theory may be plausible, but there's no evidence to support it. Ha! That's right, you don't have any proof, do you? There's no evidence of my orders. No, there is evidence of your orders. Saying that I could have committed the murder isn't the same as proving I did. No, because of how they work. Every command given is stored in its command log. Ah, fudge. How far back does this set me? Yeah, right back to the beginning. Okay. Well, next episode, we're gonna be doing this all from the top. I guess. See you then.